Have you ever felt like you're just drowning in information?
Right.
Or, you get a request and you're staring at it thinking, what do they really want?
Oh, absolutely. It's that feeling of, is this response I'm getting or maybe giving actually going to hit the mark?
Exactly. How do you cut through all that noise and figure out what's actually important? Or know if a response is any good?
It's a huge challenge today, isn't it? Knowing how to judge information, see if it's solid, if it's really answering the mail.
Right. And that how is what we're diving into today. We're sort of pulling back the curtain on how expert evaluators tackle this very systematically.
Almost like detectives for information.
Yeah. We're using two key guides: the evaluator's mission, prompt to appraisal, and the evaluator's non-safety journey, a step-by-step guide. They lay out this really clear three-stage process.
And look, this isn't just for people with evaluators on their business card. Think of it more like getting, I don't know, information X-ray specs.
I like that.
Seriously.
Yeah.
It's for anyone who wants to read sharper, communicate better, or just, quickly pull out the key stuff from whatever you're looking at.
Learning to think like that expert guide.
Precisely. Spotting the gold, filtering the rest.
Okay, so let's dig in. Stage one, the absolute starting point, is getting the initial request right. The sources call it the user's quest.
Sounds a bit grand, maybe, but it's spot on. It's not just reading the words.
No.
No, it's about digging for the intent behind them. That's your benchmark. Get that wrong, and, well,
Everything else is off.
pretty much. It becomes subjective, a bit of a shot in the dark. So the idea is active listening to the prompt.
Active listening, like you would in a conversation.
Kind of, yeah. But for text, reading it multiple times, looking for keywords, nuances, assumptions, what's not being said sometimes.
Okay. But what if the prompt itself is messy? Vague, maybe?
That happens. And that's where a technique like unpacking the 5 W's plus how is super useful. It's a mental toolkit.
Okay, break that down. 5W.
Right. You ask, what's the actual subject? Is it something philosophical like life is a carousel? Or factual like, say, the atomic bomb?
Yeah.
Then who is involved? General someone. Or specific groups like US versus Japan.
Right.
When does it apply? Always. Or a specific time like WWII. Where? Universally. A specific place.
Got it.
Then the big ones. Why is the user asking? Are they looking for an interpretation? Facts, an explanation. What's their underlying goal?
That why seems crucial.
It really is. And finally, how do they want it? An explanation. Just the facts, ma'am. Metaphorical breakdown.
So going through that process, that must really help clarify the boundaries, right? What's in scope, what's out.
Exactly. Take that life is a carousel example. If the prompt is about someone getting what they deserve and linking it to that
And
phrase.
it's metaphorical.
Totally. It's about poetic justice, consequences, that cyclical idea.
Yeah.
If the response starts defining an amusement park ride,
Miss the point completely.
yeah, it's way outside the scope. Understanding those constraints up front saves so much wasted effort. You avoid those irrelevant rabbit holes.
I think we can all relate to misunderstanding a question and spending ages on the wrong answer. This first step, really nailing the prompt, it's about efficiency too.
It really is. Precision right from the start.
Okay, so once you've truly understood the quest, the user's intent, what's next?
Then you move to phase 2, assessing the mission outcome, the response itself.
Right.
This is where you actually evaluate it, comparing it back to your understanding of the prompt, and also, importantly, against established quality guidelines.
So how do you systematically decode that response? It's not just reading it once, I assume.
No, definitely not. It usually starts with an initial scan, just a quick read through, get the gist, see the structure.
Get the lay of the land.
Exactly. Then comes the deep dive. You're reading carefully, word by word, looking at any images or media, making sure you fully grasp the content.
And this is where fact-checking comes in.
It depends. If the prompt was factual, like the atomic bomb one, yes, you'd check the accuracy against known facts.
Okay.
But for something like the carousel metaphor, fact-checking is different. It's more about logical consistency. Does the interpretation make sense? Is it a commonly understood meaning of the metaphor? Is it coherent?
So it's about validity and relevance, not just true-false.
Precisely.
Oh.
And then you bring in the compass, as you called it, the guidelines. Our sources lay out 5 core ones. Evaluators mentally check against these kind of systematically.
Okay, what do you think?
First is authenticity. Does it feel credible? Trustworthy. Is the language natural? For that metaphor, is the interpretation genuine, not just pulled out of thin air?
Makes sense. Trustworthiness.
Second, demand identification. This is huge. Did it actually answer the prompt? Did it understand the core request? or did it miss something?
Like the literal carousel definition problem.
Exactly. A good response there
Yeah.
would directly link carousel to what goes around comes around, poetic justice.
Yeah.
It nailed the demand.
Got it. What's number 3?
Format and structure. Simple, but important. Is it organized well? Easy to read? No weird presentation glitches? Clear structure helps even with complex ideas.
Readability, basically.
Yep. Fourth is relevance. Is everything in the response related to the prompt? Or does it start rambling, go off on tangents?
Any filler or fluff?
Right. And fifth is completeness and richness. Does it give all the necessary info, or are there gaps? Is it detailed enough, or does it feel thin? For the carousel, did it explain the cyclical idea effectively without, overdoing it?
Okay, so authenticity, demand identification, format, relevance, and completeness. That's quite a checklist.
It is, but think about it. That's a powerful mental toolkit for you too, right? When you're reading anything, a report, an article, even getting advice, it helps you quickly gauge quality.
Yeah, it makes you a much more active reader, doesn't it? Not just taking things at face value.
Exactly. You're not passive anymore.
So that evaluation happens internally.
Yeah.
How do you then translate that into useful feedback? That's the final stage, right? Charting the findings.
Right. Crafting the evaluation note. This is all about communicating why you rated it the way you did, making your internal assessment clear and actionable for someone else. It's about showing your chain of thought.
Chain of thought. Okay. Sounds a bit technical. What does that mean in practice?
It's basically laying out your reasoning. How did you get from the prompt and response to your final assessment? What were the key steps, the key observations?
Like showing your work in math class.
Huh. Sort of, yeah. You need to organize that mental journey into a narrative someone else can follow. And critically, you start with context.
Why context first?
Because the person reading your note might not see the issue immediately. You need to set the scene so they can understand your assessment without having to do the whole evaluation themselves. Take them on your logical path.
Okay, that makes sense. And is there a specific way to structure the feedback, especially when identifying problems?
Yes, a clear structure helps immensely. You generally state, the problem type first be specific, like demand identification issue. Then, the context. If the response went way off track, briefly explain what it was about, like the response defined a literal amusement ride.
Yeah.
And finally, the justification. This is the why. Explain why it's that specific problem, linking back to the prompt and the response content. It failed to see carousel was a metaphor, focusing on the literal meaning, thus missing the user's intent.
Gotcha. And you mentioned another example.
Yeah, the sources give one where a prompt about atomic bombs got a response about the Chernobyl explosion in Russia.
Whoa, completely different topic.
Exactly. So that's a clear demand identification issue, maybe relevance too. The justification will explain why Chernobyl is not relevant to a query about atomic bombs used in WWII.
That clarity seems vital for the feedback to actually be useful, not just critical.
Absolutely. And it's not just about flaws. Good feedback also highlights what the response did well.
Ah, the positives too.
Definitely. Note the strengths, again with brief justification. And use clear, concise language. Bullet points, bolding key terms make it easy to scan and digest. It's about being constructive.
So really, this whole process gives you a blueprint for giving better feedback in almost any situation, doesn't it? Work, personal life, even just evaluating your own thinking.
It absolutely does. It teaches you to articulate the why behind your assessment, whether it's good or bad.
Looking back at this whole 3-stage journey, prompt, deconstruction, response appraisal, crafting the findings, what's the biggest takeaway for you?
For me, it's the power of being systematic. It forces you to move beyond just a gut reaction.
Right.
You're dissecting the request, you're comparing against clear criteria, you're articulating your reasoning. It transforms how you engage with information. You become truly well-informed, not just, well-exposed.
From passive receiver to active evaluator.
That's it, exactly. You develop that internal compass.
So here's a thought for you, our listener. What if you started applying this evaluator's mindset more deliberately? Think about that detailed look at intent, the structured appraisal, the clear feedback loop. How could that change things? What if you use this approach for your next big decision, maybe a career move, or even just navigating a tricky conversation where really understanding the other person's prompt, their underlying need, is everything?
That's a fascinating challenge.
Could it transform not just how you handle information, but how you interact, how you solve problems day to day? Something to think about.